Have you been told you need to stop doing what you love, whether it's exercise, running, or a sport? Well, here at Dynamic, we don't like that answer. In this podcast, we'll talk to leaders in the health and wellness space from Southwest Florida to get the solutions you need to get you back to doing what you love. Welcome to the Dynamic Naples Podcast. Hey, what's going on? Dr. Chris here. Today I'm going to be talking about your diet and your brain, how it can affect your brain. Now, there's countless ways that your diet can influence your brain, but I'm going to pick a few topics that I think are interesting and I just think is good to know about. I'll start off with some migraines, then we'll get into vertigo, and then we'll talk about some cognitive disorders. So first up is migraines, and this one kind of hits home to me because I dealt with migraines for a few years. When I was living up in Massachusetts, we moved into a new house, and I was an avid hockey player. And for a couple of years, my freshman, sophomore year of high school, I basically couldn't play hockey because I developed severe bronchitis, and then it turned into migraines during hockey season, awful ones. I used to have to lock myself in my room, turn off the lights, and sometimes it'd bring me to the point of vomiting. It was terrible. So we couldn't figure it out. Totally messed up my first 2 years of hockey, and then my parents took me to an allergist, and they determined that I had an allergy to turpentine. They did that test where they give you like 80 little injections in the arm, and turpentine came up as a positive. And so we figured, oh, okay, it's a new house. There's turpentine in the wood. That must be the problem. So we moved. We moved out of the house, and it did seem to get better. But I kind of think that that's not the issue because I've lived in new construction a number of times since then and never had that same reaction. I think it was dietary personally. So I have a personal history of hypoglycemia, so I know I don't do well on a high-carb diet in general. I think it causes a lot of inflammation in my body. And what were we told back then during hockey season is carb up. So I was eating bowls of pasta like crazy, thinking it was good for me, thinking it was giving me energy and always make me so sluggish. So I don't know for sure, but that's my personal theory. I just know that since I've adopted a lower carb diet, that has not happened to me. So that's just one thing that could happen. Another possibility is seed oils. Seed oils seem to ruin everything in our diets and our life. So let's get into how that happens. So first of all, we're talking about omega-6 versus omega-3 oils. So it used to be that our diets were pretty much a 1-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. And in the past 3 decades, that's jumped to closer to 20-to-1 with omega-6 far outweighing the omega-3. And one of the major reasons for this is the uptick in vegetable oils in our diets. So when I say seed oil, I mean vegetable oil, same thing. So in July of 2021, they did a systematic review. That's the sort of highest order of evidence to see if there was a link between diet and migraines. And they found diets that had a closer to normal ratio of 6s to 3s had a significant reduction in headache frequency and intensity. Additionally, omega-6 and omega-3s, they're precursors to a molecule known as oxylipins. Oxylipins regulate pain and inflammation in the body, and they have opposing effects. So omega-6 is pro-inflammatory, and omega-3 is anti-inflammatory. And now inflammation can travel from the gut up to the brain and trigger widespread inflammation. Also, we know that adipose tissue, aka fat tissue, can secrete cytokines, which is basically a signal for inflammation. So a diet that's high in omega-6 and low in omega-3 increases the risk for obesity. So again, once there's inflammation in the gut, it can travel to the brain and cause headaches via the gut-brain axis. So check your labels. These oils are everywhere. I'm just going to read the list of them. See, these are ones to avoid: soybean oil, safflower, canola, rice bran, cottonseed, corn, grapeseed, and sunflower oil. Okay, so next up is vertigo, and I want to talk about a specific type of vertigo. So there are lots of different versions of vertigo. The one I want to talk about is BPPV, benign paroxysmal positional vertigo. This is the one, if you've heard people talking about the crystals being knocked loose in their canals, that's the one. So this is usually marked by about 1 minute to 2 minutes of room-spinning dizziness when you turn your head. That's the classic sign of BPPV. So in your ears, in your inner ear, that is, not the outer ear, You've got your semicircular canals. So there's three sort of loops in your inner ear full of fluid, and the otoconia, which are the hair cells. So when you turn your head one way, the hair cells, which are held in place by the crystals, put a drag on the hair cells, and that sends a signal to your brain. That's how you stay balanced. When you look at the semicircular canals, they have a bilayer, so they have two fluids inside. They have an endolymph and a perilymph. And one contains more sodium ions and one contains more potassium ions. That creates a gradient, and that is what allows for nerve signals to pass through. So one suggestion of a possible dietary cause is as simple as an electrolyte imbalance, particularly with sodium, as it can interfere with the nerve impulse. Another suggestion has been that vitamin D deficiency, here we go with vitamin D again, causes the otoconia to degenerate, allowing them to get knocked loose easier into the canals. There's also been studies that correlate between dysfunctions in carbohydrate metabolism and BPPV. So it's been well documented that high levels of insulin can affect the cardiovascular system and cause hypertension. The endolymphatic sac has a high level of insulin receptors. So it would follow that any problems with insulin, such as diabetes, would have an effect on the inner ear function. So there was a study done in Brazil in 2015. They followed a group of 72 patients that had BPPV, and they followed them for 4 years. And what they found is that the patients that had hyperinsulinemia, which is just high levels of insulin from a diet high in carbs, those patients were 4.6 times greater than those that did not have hyperinsulinemia. And here is another interesting finding. So pH levels, so acid to base levels, appeared to have an influence on the crystals. So a diet that's really high in acid can cause erosion of these crystals. During sleep, you tend to breathe more shallow, and can cause respiratory acidosis and low pH levels. And it's really common for anybody who's had BPPV for it to happen first thing in the morning. Also, for those that are unlucky enough to have gout or diabetes, that can also decrease the blood pH, making it more acidic, and that can also potentially lead to BPPV. So next up, let's talk about cognitive dysfunction. So type 3 diabetes, have you heard this term? This is what they're calling Alzheimer's, is type 3 diabetes. It's long been recognized that there's a strong correlation between diabetes and Alzheimer's, and now there's some clues as to why that might be. Alzheimer's sets in because of a buildup of a protein. It's called amyloid beta peptide. These are plaques that basically affect the brain function. These plaques develop in the spaces between the nerves, not inside the nerves. So when you become insulin resistant, one thing that can happen is it causes the nerves of the brain to release this amyloid beta protein into that space between the nerves. And lastly, I want to talk about Parkinson's disease. So it's been well known that oxidative stress is involved in the progression of Parkinson's disease. Vegetable oils, again, they cause lots of oxidative stress. But let's give the vegetable oils a little break. And I want to talk about a study that came out that was really interesting. This was a study that was done in 2013 in Japan. It was a pilot study. So molecular hydrogen, so that's H2, is a known antioxidant. And the theory is that patients with Parkinson's may be deficient in this molecular hydrogen. So what they did is they gave these patients, these subjects, hydrogen-infused water for 48 weeks, and it greatly reduced their symptoms. I just found that fascinating, that an intervention that simple might actually give someone a better quality of life. So that wraps it up for this episode. I will talk to you guys soon. Do you have unexplained pain, or do you wonder just how healthy you are? When was the last time you had your blood tested? Blood chemistry analysis is a great way to stay ahead of any health conditions, and now you can have control of your health with Let's Get Checked. Let's Get Checked is an incredible company that sends blood tests to your home. You can choose from over 30 different tests, whether that's liver function, testosterone, micronutrient, cholesterol, or C-reactive protein, which is a marker for inflammation. It's sent to you with free shipping, and you get your results in 2 to 5 days, no physician referral needed. Use the code DPT30 for 30% off. go to letsgetchecked.com and use the code DPT30. Did you know that you can get started with physical therapy without a physician's referral? Physical therapists don't just solve pain, we get down to the root cause and keep it from coming back. We also discuss all things health, such as nutrition and lifestyle changes. If you feel that you could use some help, let's get on a free consult call. Go to www.dynamicnaples.com and sign up for a free call. Also, if you like this podcast, please give us a rating wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps us spread the message. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.